Hey, welcome back everyone. Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about this amazing tablet. It's made by Sense Labs, and hopefully I'm saying that right. It's XENCE Labs, and I'll make sure to link everything in the description box below, obviously. But a fantastic device. So this is their medium tablet. It's got 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity, I believe. What immediately impressed me about this one, and so just so you know, they sent me this free of charge, but I made sure to let them know that, hey, I'm going to give an honest review or no review at all because I'm not here to sell you products that I don't believe in. That's just not my way of doing things, okay? So I was fully ready to get this thing and dismiss it as, maybe a bad product because they're out there, right? There's a lot of people that try to get into this game and be the next Wacom, but they have a hard time keeping up. And, you know, Wacom over the years has become a bit pricey and lackluster and delivering on expectations, especially with their Cintiq models. But at any rate, I don't want to bash. I still love their products, but it's definitely something, there's a lot of people that are interested in looking around and finding better deals on this type of stuff. And I think this is really one, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the channel here for you. So essentially, the build quality, and that's why I want to show you this first before we jump into the drivers and before I give you any demo and drawing. The build quality is fantastic. This is heavy duty. You can tell everything is high quality. Even this aspect of it is really exceptional. They give you this nice carrying case that's solid and weighted. It's got a good weight to it. And they give you two pen options right out of the gate, which I think is just amazing. It's also wired or wireless. I tend to always run wired because I want to know that I'm getting the best reaction to the drawing process. And it being wireless is got some real host of benefits, obviously, but then you start to wonder if like, oh, am I losing connectivity, and that's why it's reacting poorly. So I like to go wired with everything. They give you some nice pen nibs. Now also, the pen nibs, I immediately switch them out with the felt tip because that's just, I like a little bit more resistance. And I can tell you this has a really great feel to that. So that's another big one for me. It has a nice amount of drag, which lends to feeling like you're sketching on something better than a real digital device. Like one of the things I always talk about is drawing like on the iPad Pro. I love it, but there's times it gets very annoying because you're slipping around on glass. These nibs on this surface is a nice combo. This isn't something I've used yet, but I've got to try it out. I mean, it's just super cool that all of this is coupled into this package of the medium device for a very reasonable price. It basically makes this a better deal than you're going to get from somebody like Wacom. Now, if the quality was less than, then I would be like, well, wait a second. All these fancy little trinkets might not make up for the difference. So this is a programmable key fob. You could program your zoom here, different, Command Z, whatever your major go-to hotkeys are. You'd program those right here. And, again, I haven't used that, but it's just a very cool add-on to this kit, which I think makes it just very functional. We're going to next jump into the driver settings and talk a little bit about that because if, maybe you got one of these and you want to know how to set it up, we'll get into that. And then, we'll get into some applications of it, some practical applications where we actually draw with it. But again, this part of it, which I would consider like, almost like the unboxing, right? I didn't do the unboxing for you, but I wanted to use it first to make sure I liked it. And fantastic. I mean, just a very well laid out presentation. Oh, it even comes with a nice carrying case for all of this. So yeah, you just really can't beat it as far as the bang for the buck with that. But then, like I said, the real determining factor is once you jump in and start using it, how does it feel? Does it make you want to create more? Do you feel like you're struggling to draw with it? And that's something that obviously is more than all of this in the presentation and all the little doodads. So let's jump into the driver and talk a little bit about that next. Okay, so after you've loaded the driver, you're going to get something like this screen up here. So I'm going to bounce back and forth from these so I can show you just some of the cool features. It shows you the charge that you've got there. Obviously, if you want to jump to wireless, you'll pay more attention to something like this. Again, I leave it wired in. You can program each of the pens. You can program them to be software specific, which is very cool, especially if you jump around like I do from different softwares and you have different settings that you like for each. I'll be honest, I disable a lot of the pens and the buttons like that. So you just go in there, you can disable, you can modify your keystrokes. You do all sorts of great stuff in here. set them to be navigation capable, zooming in and out, all sorts of great stuff. Again, I disable all this. I tend to accidentally click it as I'm drawing, and it's a little bit annoying for me, so I get these right out of there. I do like to play around with different pen pressure settings for each particular software. So I found that I typically will use more pen pressure or a harder, firmer setting for something like Clip Studio, and a little bit softer setting for Photoshop, back to firm, a little bit medium on Sketchbook. So it really just depends. You're going to have different settings for each, so you can program those here. You can also go to advanced settings. You can play with the actual curve. I typically find that something like this is in the range of what I like to use, but you have to play with this. Now, as I mentioned in other videos about this, the main thing is you document every interval, every change, or you're flying blind. So don't just start getting in here and thinking you're going to find your way. You might just find frustration. Document everything. So if you hit OK, note the difference, take some notes, have a little sketch pad, notebook right next to you and write it down. Really recommend that. Go back in, double check your settings, make sure that it took, and then go to the other one, see how it saved versus even the different buttons saving. That's all very important to pay attention to and can be very effective for you. You can obviously add new softwares here. You can export that data. That's great. So I would save all that. So a very effective looking driver for this setup. Again, all of this is just preliminary, and it doesn't mean a whole lot of anything if you can't jump in there and draw well. But right now, from first glance at all this, it's working great and it's done really well. Now, the biggest aspect for me is that I have the proper proportions set to the device. Okay, so for instance, right now it's set to, if I go to the very corner of this, or actually, you know what? It's actually set. I got 3 different displays here. I need to go to my other display. There we go. There, yeah, now it's working. So if I go to the very left corner of this, I'm at the very left of my screen. See that? If I go to the very bottom right, it gets blocked for a second there. It should pop back. Oh, well, it's behind it. But if you look, if I go up, where did it go? Right there. So you can't see it because of the way I have my windows set up. But this is using the full proportionate scale to the tablet, to the screen that I'm using. Now that's what I really recommend. And you do that by, it'll ask you to set it. Let's see, define portion. Okay, so if I was to click on this tablet right now and just drag, see how I just changed that, and I changed the scale and everything. That's what you don't want. Okay, if that happens, now a circle on your screen isn't going to be a circle because you've changed the proportions. So let's go to set work area. You see here it says use the pen to click the upper left corner of the tablet area. So I do that here. Bottom right. Did it even say bottom right? It should. Okay, it reset it automatically. See that? Set to scale. Now, for me, the only difference here is I've been working this way. I actually like it, but what happens here, say I'm drawing the side of a face, and I'll demo this here in a second for you. I have to pull all the way down, maybe if I'm working with the whole screen. See the distance I have to cover to say maybe I'm drawing a forehead, right? So I'm going like this, and I got this much area to cover. That's not generally the way that I work with my device. I set it up to be at a smaller proportionate scale. But you can't just click here and change it as we just demonstrated, because it's going to distort the proportion. So let's go into here. Now keep in mind, there might be a better way to do this. I'm still very new to the setup, but I just want to let you know that that's one of the main pitfalls that a lot of artists that move into digital will do. They don't define this properly and get the setting the way that they like so that they can draw naturally. I've seen that quite a bit. So we got 1159 here. Let's divide that. Let's see, if we take that 2, that's 550, and then another 25, 20, what is it, 29? So 559? Hold on, let me grab my calculator. Forgive me. I know better than to try to work that out through my head. It's 579, I think, but. All right, 1159 divided by 2, 579. Okay, so I got it on my second try. Anyways, 579, and this one's easy. That's 1024. 1024, bam. Now, I don't see where you can grab this and move it over. So I know that once I click on this and go to move, it's going to redraw, and that's what I don't want. Can I Command Z? Nope, sure can't. So I'll go back to it, We're at what, 579, I believe, point 0.5. Let's see if we can add the 0.5 too. Nope, just the 579. So it's going to be a tiny bit off. And then what was it, 1024, right? That looks about right. And now it's in the middle. That's what I wanted. Oh, and you know what? You adjust the X and Y axes here, so you can move it around with that. So say you wanted it at the top left of your tablet, which would kind of make sense. Well, for me it would, because I'm left-handed. Maybe I don't want my hand resting on the device. Anyways, I'm okay with this. So I'm going to set that to the middle. I'm going to hit OK there. I do wish it was a little more automated, that you could just click scale and drag across wherever you wanted. That would make a little bit more sense. But let's go ahead and test it now. So now we've defined a smaller area. And so if I go to the top left, look how my cursor is moving a lot faster. And I don't have to drag my hand all the way across. There's pros and cons to both methods, I would say, because lately I've been drawing with the full device, and it does have certain advantages. But I don't know, I'm kind of a quick little sketch guy. Like, I sketch a lot of lines, so I think for me that this might be better, or maybe even kind of in between this, make it scale it up a little bit more. But I want you to be aware of that. You're going to grab your different displays here. You're going to adjust your define proportion and scale within there. You got a sleep time. This is great, especially if, again, you're running off your wireless. I mean, you don't want to kill your battery for no reason. And again, you can set both pens in there. So I won't get into this any more than that. Obviously, you can delve way further into this. I just want to give you a brief overview and hurry up and get to the part that I think is most important, is that how does it draw? How well can you draw with this? So let's jump into that right now. Alrighty, so now for the fun stuff. We can get in here and draw. Obviously, I'm using Clip Studio Paint. I've got all my settings ready to go. And the first thing I do is I draw a circle. Why? Because if my circle comes out to be an oval, I know my settings are off. So I shouldn't struggle. Well, I always struggle to make circles, but I shouldn't struggle too much. Now keep in mind, if I didn't define that smaller area with the tablet, I would have to cover a bigger area on the device to make a circle, which actually kind of crazy. That one came out better than the rest. So I might want to switch it back. But again, you're going to play with these settings. You have to dial in any digital device to work as well as you might like. So I'll just do something basic. I'll draw a face, and I'll go through the steps that I would traditionally use to define said face, and tell you if I feel like I have to struggle in any way to perform the actions that it takes. So first off, it's always a little bit harder for me to draw anything on this type of device because I've been so acclimated. I've been so conditioned to use the iPad Pro and the Cintiq that I have. So I end up spending more time on those devices. That alone will generally make it to where it's harder for me to compete on this type of device. I will say that this type of device works better for me for digitally painting and sculpting in ZBrush. I almost always go to this, mainly because I can sit back and kind of chill and just recline in my chair and sculpt or digitally paint. It's a different process altogether. We're drawing, I generally posture up more. I generally tense up on the device and hunch over my work. So there's just a different kind of dynamic mechanics that I use personally. Now that doesn't apply to everybody because there's artists out there that use this type of device and they do a very detailed, hyper realistic, hyper detailed work. Doesn't matter, and they don't need the other type of device. So a lot of it is self-conditioning, I believe. So I'm just kind of blocking this in. I don't even know who I'm drawing here. Probably should have thought of that first, but we'll just let it be. Whatever we get, we get. But I feel like it's very accurate. It's extremely accurate. In fact, I've did a side-by-side with the other guys. We'll just say the big guys that we all know. And it works just as well, if not better. So now for me, it works better because the reason being, the surface feels a little bit better. So that's a big part, as I mentioned before. And then also, it's this one has 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity. Well, my other one is half of that because it's an older model. So that's not a fair comparison. But one thing I can tell you is that for the fair comparison of the model that you would get in the medium size, doesn't come with 2 pens and all the other features. So it's really a better deal. So that's first and foremost. So if it's a better deal and it works as good, if not better, then yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm going to promote it to people and say that it's a good product. Now, if had any shortcomings that I can find, I'll let you know. Because again, I don't want anybody to be misled by anything I'm saying with these. I'm just, trying to demo it and show you like this can get you some good artwork. Uh, I mean, I think any of the devices out there with enough time can produce great artwork, but it's like how much do you have to really compromise what you're looking to do? And I don't feel any sort of compromising with this product. That's the main thing. There's been certain ones like for instance, when I first got my one of my first iPads, I was so excited to be able to digitally paint on an iPad, and so but I had like a one of those bulbous tip styluses, and it had no pressure sensitivity. I managed to get a couple good pieces of art out of it, but I definitely felt there was some compromise in the way that I wanted to create. It took a lot longer than I was hoping to, or I don't want to say expecting, because I went into it with no preconceived ideas of how I would feel about it. I just felt like it was better to keep an open mind. But as I started to feel like I was having to compromise the quality that I would want out of my work, I became disenchanted with it, and that's when I started looking for, getting into the iPad Pro, where it's, it yields really good results, and it feels like you're drawing. That being said, as I mentioned before, it still gets very awkward drawing on glass, even with the screen protector. You're just slipping and sliding all over the place, and I really wish they would hurry up and identify a better solution to that than, screen protectors that offer, uh, a better experience. It is a better experience, but it's still not right. Like they should just do something better with the tips of the pencil, in my opinion. But that's for another video. So the other thing that I like about this, I tend to skew, especially faces. So I think it's good that I actually decided to do one of these, because I typically, on an angle like this, it's very easy for me to skew this face. I'll probably do it inadvertently, just because it's kind of one of my Achilles heels. But for some reason, I tend to do it a little bit less on this type of device. Now, I don't know if that's because on the other ones, my hand's in the way. I don't see why that would matter, because when I draw on paper, my hand's in the way. But I typically skew more on paper as well. I think that there is a lot to be said for your hand not being in the way as you're drawing the work. And I know that some artists get insanely fast on these. So it's possible that you could do as good, if not better, than you could on paper. And I know that's a bold statement, because people love traditional art. I don't ever try to say that digital replaces that. I just think it should be used for its strengths, as well as traditional art for its strengths. Because you just can't beat having a piece of artwork when you're done, where with digital you have to just make prints. But on a note with that, I've made more money off prints than I've made off original art by far. So there is that. I'm sure a lot of artists will say the opposite, but it just depends on what you've been able to market. And for me, it's been able to do pretty well with prints. So originals, I don't know. So maybe it's because I sell them for too much. I don't know what the problem is there. But okay, so now we've got Silver Surfer or somebody here. Let me flip the artwork. I generally, again, I usually have to do that a couple times. So you see I've got a very lopsided head going here. I basically just shifted the character as I was drawing through. This is always the hardest part, the very top of the head. I usually have to connect a few lines to get around that, and then I go back and clean that area up. But even with my traditional art, I typically will do that, but I rotate the page like this. Clean it up like this. Hopefully I'm not blocking it with that other screen. Sorry if I keep doing that. And so now I can usually, as I pulled a crooked line like the first one, I can usually pull a better curved line or straight line to the side pulling downward. So that's what I'm trying to do there. Still got a bit of the bumpy head. And I probably lower that down. I always manipulate this area at least a couple times. Bring the cheek out a little bit more. me try a different approach here with all this. This is all bothering me right there. So let's try that again. So sometimes what helps too is like get the front plane of the forehead in place and then kind of build off of that. So I just feel like I just added too much mass at the top of the head, but now this feels like too little. And the connection point over here feels weird. So a little bit more up here. Yeah, so I do feel a real struggle going sideways. But again, I want to stress that that's with any of these devices. One of the main reasons why I end up not drawing on this as much as I would like to, because I always feel so awkward with that part of it. But that's really a reason to practice more and get past it, because, you know, and obviously with tools and Clip Studio, you can draw out curved lines. I'm just avoiding that, by the way. It's in here somewhere. You can easily draw out, I think you have to do it something like this, and you can get the curve you're looking for pretty quickly. I'm painstakingly doing it because I want to show it can be done, and that's still clunky. Yeah, I still don't like that. Come on, hand. You can do it. See, even right here, it's like going this way is where I really struggle on this type of device. Look at that. I cannot pull that line for the life of me. Why the madness? All right, let's just quit fighting it. Let's rotate. Keep my finger on the R key here. This is where that little programmable version of the that dongle looking thing, I don't know what that thing's called, little doodad trinket. That's better. Still a little weird. Got the neck pretty wide, but I was kind of thinking like a big, beefy, tough guy. And let's see, probably drop in some quick shadows here. But yeah, I gotta say, overall, this is an amazing device, and you're gonna see me using it a lot more on the channel. I set up another computer, so I'm basically gonna have one on each, which is great, and just leave them hooked up. I'll tell you another thing which is nice. I left it hooked up while the Cintiq is plugged in, and there was no conflict of the drivers, which I'm really happy about, because, you know, that can be a real bummer. What do I have a textured blender on there for? Sorry, I don't know why I did that. I want to blend like this. So yeah, so that's a nice little deal as well. I was thinking the drivers would like conflict, almost like gaming drivers. You go to game and then your driver like totally messes up another game. It works well on one, on the other, or it works well for gaming but not for 3D. That's always a pain. But yeah, anyways, this works great. So again, I just wanted to show it to you in action, prove that you could draw with this pretty well. This is more of a sketch for me, but I could obviously just refine this and get to an illustration that I want. So I wholeheartedly say check this sucker out. It's a good device. It's well worth the price. And yeah, if you got any questions, make sure to comment in the section below. I will make sure that the link in the description box below takes you to this device, but keep in mind it is an affiliate link. I am going to get a small commission for that. It just allows me to keep doing what I do on the channel. But again, you can totally trust that you will see me using this device, that I would never promote anything on this channel that I wouldn't use myself, or I just won't talk about it. So thanks very much. As always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.